Invocation this morning will be delivered by Dr. Jeff Burnett from First Baptist Church in Hurst. Welcome, sir. After the invocation, please remain standing for the pledges.
Before I pray, I simply want to thank you for the leadership that you provide, the service you render, and the decisions you make. It was Napoleon who said that nothing is more difficult and therefore more precious than to be able to decide. I pray you'll decide well today. Let's pray together. Father Harry Truman was also correct when he wondered how far would Moses have gone had he taken a poll in Egypt. May the decisions of this day be based not upon polls nor popularity, but rather that which is in the best interest of all your people. And may Tarrant County go farther still as the land of promise because of the decisions made in this court today. Bless these your servants, even as they seek to bless your people. We pray in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you coming out. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have several announcements for the court this morning. The first is under the Administrator's Office under A1. This is the Hospital District's FY10 budget. All the backup material is correct. We made some minor corrections on the court communication itself. I believe that we've included those in your red folder this morning. Also, under Facilities, item 9E1. This concerns parking management services at the Arlington Courthouse. We're going to ask that we remove that from the agenda at this time. Also, members of the court, today at 2 o'clock in the Family Law Building, the IT Steering Committee is going to be holding a meeting. And then tomorrow at Council of Governments at 2 o'clock, PEBC will be meeting also. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our September the 15th meeting.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have a couple of proclamations this morning. The first, Commissioner Van Ravensway, the presentation on the leadership in energy and environmental design.
Yes, we've talked about our LEED certification for several months now, and now we actually have the tangible certification. So we're going to receive it today, and we have a couple of people making comments. It's really exciting to know that we have the first sub-courthouse in Texas that has LEED certification, and we have the first LEED certified building in Arlington. So we're very happy with those two distinctions, and at this time, David Phillips will come forward.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're here today to present an earth-friendly building to Commissioner Marty Van Ravensway and Commissioner's Court. That earth-friendly building is a sub-courthouse in Arlington. The person responsible, Tracy Pelly, for overseeing the design and construction of what I consider a very successful building, is here to introduce herself, talk about the building a little bit, and introduce some of the project team. Tracy?
That stack gets much bigger. It's going to be bigger than you. They're still bringing them in.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning, Tracy.
We are pleased to be here today to celebrate Tarrant County's first leadership in energy and environmental design for LEED certification for the sub-courthouse in Arlington facility. On August 25th, 2009, the sub-courthouse in Arlington was awarded LEED Silver by the United States Green Building Council with a total of 36 points. According to USGBC, not only is this Tarrant County's first LEED certified building, it is also the first LEED certified building in the city of Arlington and the first LEED certified county courthouse in the state of Texas. This is an amazing accomplishment, and we could not be more grateful to Commissioner Van Ravensway and to all the court members for making this possible. We are also grateful to our awesome project team. Many of them are with us today. And in honor of this achievement and in appreciation of their participation in LEED, Tarrant County would like to award USGBC certificates to them for their hard work and dedication in pursuit of this endeavor. First, our architects, LBL Architects, Mike Barnard, President, Tom McCarty, Vice President, and Bill Eccles, Project Architect.
Now come on down.
We'd also like to recognize their consultants who are not present with us: Baird Hampton and Brown, MEP, Frank W. Neal and Associates, Structural, McCoskey McInnes Associates, Civil and Landscape, Dimlow Interior Design, and our Green Building Consultant who is with us here today, Green Building Services, Amanda Tulos. I'd like to extend a special thank you to GBS for leading the way. We could not have accomplished such great success without their assistance and guidance. Next, our construction manager, Steele and Freeman. Mike Freeman, President. David Marsh, Vice President. King Kaiser, Project Manager, and Jarrett Jones, Assistant Project Manager.
Okay, now they were trying to get a picture. Y'all come on back up here and y'all come up here and get a picture in this.
I have to say, you guys clean up really well. I'm used to seeing you with your hard hats on.
Our commissioning agent, Air Balancing Company, is Mark here? Mark.
Albert Brown.
Oh, Albert, sorry. And to our very own Tarrant County Facilities Management Department, David Phillips, for his continual support of this endeavor. Clarence Presley, Mike Amador, and their staff for their operational and building services support.
They were amazing and very tolerant of my continual input, and I thank you very, very much for making this a reality. It's just absolutely awesome.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
You're not finished,
I'm
right?
not finished. David? You didn't really present that. Yes. All right. So thank you to our team. We are extremely proud of this important achievement and look forward to our next success with our Northwest Courthouse project. To Commissioner Van Ravensway and to the court, we congratulate your leadership. Thank you for your commitment to build sustainably and responsibly for the future. It is exciting to now see this commitment of the court come to fruition, and it is with great honor that we present the LEED Silver Plaque for the sub-courthouse members.
You're doing great.
Isn't that beautiful?
That is.
Very careful.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Now, when do you hang it? Or whatever you do with it?
We're going to work on getting with you and your staff a proper place to hang it.
Next, we have a proclamation for Family Day, as well as a resolution of appreciation, which are for ratification only, so I will move approval of items 6, B, and C.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Fickus.
Yes, we have a resolution for a great leader in Northeast Tarrant County, and this is for City Manager Larry Cunningham, who, and Larry, I'm going to have you come up in a moment, but why don't you go ahead and just stand up so everybody can see who you are, those that don't know Larry. And I'll read this resolution. Whereas following a distinguished career in the city of Lubbock for over 26 years, Larry Cunningham came to the city of North Richland Hills in 1993 as a finance director and quickly progressed to being appointed city manager in 1997. And whereas under Larry's guidance, the city of North Richland Hills greatly expanded its parks and recreational facilities and established the Arts and Public Places program to improve the quality of life for its citizens. And whereas during his tenure, 2 bond issues were successfully passed by the voters, allowing the city to provide for major capital improvements to streets and public safety, as well as enhanced facilities for the fire department, which resulted in the city attaining a rating of 2 from the Insurance Services Office, a standard achieved by only 4% of Texas cities and less than 4% of cities throughout the United States. Whereas with Larry Cunningham's leadership, the city of North Richland Hills was recognized by Money Magazine in 2006 as one of the top 100 best places to live based on employment opportunities, low crime rate, educational facilities, home values, and recreational facilities. Now, herefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, take pleasure in acknowledging Larry Cunningham's over 43 years of distinguished public service and join with the citizens of the city of North Richland Hills in extending our gratitude to him for improving the quality of life in this great Texas city and wish him well in his future endeavors. Larry will be retiring, I guess, the end of next week. Is that correct? Larry, if you'll come forward, I'd like to move for approval.
Second.
Resolution. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Larry, congratulations.
We appreciate all you've done. You want to give any comments? Feel free. If not.
I will just make it very brief. Thank you very much. This is not deserved, but very much appreciated. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be in North Richland Hills and especially in Tarrant County. And this is one of the best counties I have ever seen. And I tell you, it's a tribute to the elected officials as well as the folks that you hire to also assist you. So thank you very much, Commissioners and County Judge Whitley. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius?
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, if we could go to the administrative section, the first item. This concerns the approval of the Tarrant County Hospital District's FY10 budget. Mr. Early is here to make a small presentation, then we're going to ask for your approval. Mr. Early.
The subtlety of small was not lost on me. Thank you, Mr. Manius. I want to first thank your staffs and you as court members for allowing us the time to brief you and provide you the information, and particularly your staffs for the input and the time that they provided listening to us as we went through this budget. budgets are oftentimes difficult to write and difficult to deal with. This budget is no different. There are people that are very pleased with it, and there are people that have portions of it that they're frustrated with. That's unfortunately a budget process. I would also like to tell you that this budget represents a departure. This budget represents far more of a management tool than JPS has been afforded previously. It's a management tool because what we did was we took what our revenues were, what our costs were, what our initiatives were, and we overlaid that on what the board's policies were. And the board said, we want you focusing on some key areas. They said, we want you to focus on patient throughput. We want you to focus on patient satisfaction, employee and physician satisfaction. They said, we want you to focus on teaching. We want you to focus on quality of care, strategic planning, and we want you to focus on trauma and meeting the needs of trauma of this community. Those were the pillars and the foundation by which this budget was overlaid, and that's what we did. Because of that, it's going to serve far more as a management tool. We have put in efficiency models that will create greater levels of efficiency in here. Again, there are portions of it that are well received and portions of it that are not as well received with any budget of $680+ million. I also want to publicly thank the staff at JPS. This budget could not have been done with the work of the finance department and Dee Chason. It couldn't have been done without the incredible work of Bill Whitman, who's a great asset to our organization, Gary Floyd, Jamie Pennington. Those are just some of the people that made this possible, along with all of our VPs and directors, supervisors, and managers that we brought into the budget process. I don't usually come with the JPS bus, but we did bring all those previously mentioned folks that I have with us. In case you do have questions, what I'd like to do at this point is ask Mr. Whitman to step forward and go through some of the beginnings of that. Then Ms. Chason will come up and go through a few of the particular slides, and then we are done. Unless y'all have any questions, Mr. Whitman.
No pressure. Thank you very much, and if you would allow me, I would ask you turn to page 3 of the presentation, and I will hit the statistical highlights, which serves as the foundation of most any budget. And we've spent a few months, certainly a few weeks, but I'm thinking months, and going over the slide.
You have a keyboard in front of you, I think.
Okay. This is beyond me. Cool.
Bill, you don't have to take abuse from GK or...
Believe me, I am thankful for him. I enjoy this.
So am I.
That's page 6, and we're talking about page 3. You're doing good so far, GK.
Wow. Yeah, I deal with hard copy much better. But I understand this is technologically advanced. So giving you time to turn to that statistical summary, this is, again, what we have based our budget on, and obviously budgets are as good as the forecasts that are made, and these things are fluid in this kind of environment. But by and large, the emergency room visits drive the admissions of our facility. Not just the ER itself, but OB triage, psych ER, which we have a very active psych ER, as well as the ED visits themselves. When this budget was first cast back in June, July, the ER visits that you see there that we're anticipating going up 5% or something like 16% of using the same number ahead of where we were as of March 31st on an annualized basis. We have had an incredibly busy summer in the ED at the facility. We still feel comfortable with this number. Any risk in the budget, it might be the number of people that show up at our ED, and we anticipate that this is a good number to build on and go forward. Our OB triage visits, they're continuing to rise, and this is just not one birth for every visit. This is multiple visits for every birth. So that's why you see a discrepancy between the number of OB triage visits and the number of births that we're anticipating. I might also add that we have opened our urgent care center on our campus to be 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week as of September 1st. And we anticipate that that will offload a lot of capacity, a lot of volume that comes to our ED. So another reason why that did not go up as much as you would have thought. The admissions being driven from those two visits were forecast to increase 3.8%. Our acute med-surg length of stay, we're anticipating significant declines here. That translates to decreased expense as well. The district has not done as good a job as it could have in the past regarding case management. And this decrease in average length of stay is completely predicated on actively managing the admissions to the hospital at the time they're admitted. We're trying to actively plan the discharge of those patients who are admitted the day they're admitted. Not the day before, not the day of, the day they're admitted. So we anticipate through active case management, we can make significant improvements in our average length of stay. The births, following a trend over the past 3 years, continue to decline. Not a large decline, but we anticipate another 2.6% from the previous year. And our surgery cases are anticipated to increase 2.1%. We have a capacity issue with our facility and matching the OR availability with our capacity. We have a tower that is undergoing renovation right now, and we anticipate that as soon as that renovation is complete, we could look to opening up additional capacity in our ORs. But this is the statistical summary that the budget is based on, and I'll be happy to address any questions any of you might have. Without questions, I will turn it over to Lee Chassan, our VP of Finance.
Since I didn't see those arrows on the right, go down.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Commissioner Johnson, I'd like to acknowledge that we do still owe you some information from our briefing with you, and we're working on that, and we'll get it to you as soon as possible.
Thank you very much.
The FY10 preliminary budget reflects the volume assumptions for net patient revenue that Bill just reviewed with you. That represents about a 6% increase from where we're projecting to end up FY09. Ad valorem tax revenue is based on the tax rate that was approved by this court last week. There's no changes in that. Other revenue represents the $3 million that we expect to continue to receive in trauma funding this year, assuming that the state does not make any changes to that plan. Salaries and other operating expenses, I think we've reviewed in fairly significant detail with the court. The FY10 initiatives does include the EHR project, and Jamie Pennington is here to address any questions that you have related to that project. So we are projecting a budgeted change in net assets next year of $1.1 million, which is significantly better than where we project we will be this year based on the efficiencies and management tools that we have built into this budget. Are there any questions on the income statement?
I guess just a couple of questions. With regard to your budget for FY10, we've asked this question of everybody that's come before us. No just cost of living increases, no changes in salaries, anything along that line?
The salary budget does not include any merit increases for staff next year. It only includes some minor market adjustments for clinical positions where we need to keep pace with the market to retain that staff, but there are no merit adjustments in this budget.
Okay.
This is the cash flow statement that shows you, based on our projected income for next year, and the capital budget that we have in place, which includes the first installment of the replacement hospital information system, that at the end of fiscal year 2010, we expect to be at approximately 142 days cash on hand, in keeping with the board's directive to reduce our cash reserves.
And again, I know that I think your target for the board is 100 days.
Correct.
And I would really like to have something, and I know Robert comes and visits with us on a quarterly basis, so maybe the next time he comes and visits with us, he could talk about over a 4 or 5 year period, where do you plan on getting?
Right.
Because I know we could bring you down to 100 days real quick.
Yes, sir. And I believe we discussed this earlier. If we're going to commit to a $150 million replacement hospital information system project, that represents 60 days cash on hand. So with no change in our reserves and no additional capital funding, that would take us below the 100 days in approximately 4 years.
Okay.
I would like a revisitation of the question of how much is enough. 100 days seems to me to be a number that it may be right, it may not be enough. I think we need to have a definitive study on how much reserves the hospital district needs to have so that we'll have confidence in the number.
Okay.
100 days to me just feels like something somebody picked and said, oh, that sounds good.
Our bond covenants require 75 days, and monthly we gauge where we are against A-rated healthcare organizations. So A-rated in our bucket or our comparison group are averaging 231 days. So we tried to pick something in the middle, but we can definitely revisit that and compare ourselves against other hospital districts across the state and kind of see where we match with them.
And compare it with the strategic plan and the goals of the hospital and come up with a real number on how much reserves we need to accomplish what it is we're trying to accomplish.
I believe we could ask Mr. Petty to have the Finance Committee address that. Put together a work group.
That'd be great.
So this is the cash flow that shows how we get to the 142 days. This shows our change in net assets and then our capital expenditures that this year are projected at $49.8 million. Again, that includes the first installment of the replacement hospital information system.
In the numbers that you include, you have not anticipated any reimbursement on the electronic medical records from the stimulus package?
No, we have not, and Jamie can actually speak to that better than I can, but the incentives for meaningful use, I don't believe, kick in until 2011. Is that correct, Jamie? And we're not sure that we will be to the point of meeting the meaningful use definition, so we've not taken any of that into account in this budget. And this is just a brief description of the electronic health record project, which is really a replacement hospital information system. And if you have questions, Jamie can speak to them. Any other questions?
Members of court, you've been briefed on the budgets as it relates to the hospital district's budget year FY10. Staff is recommending that the court approve the said budget.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of court, on item number 2, this is a belt and suspenders related issue. There was some question if which came first, the approval of the budget or the approval of the tax rate. Statutorily, we have not found anything that says that the budget has to be approved prior to setting the tax rate, but just to make sure that everyone is satisfied with our process, we are asking that the court affirm and approve the hospital district's tax rate for tax year 2009 as follows: maintenance and operations .226255, interest at sinking .001642, for a total tax rate for tax year 2009 of .227897 per $100 valuation.
Which is the same as last year's budget.
It
and
is.
the same as we approved last week.
Absolutely.
If we're going to make sure that we get the cart before the horse, then I guess we need to have a public hearing on it?
No, not on this.
We don't? We've had
Simply
public-
because this rate here is below the effective tax rate.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of court, we could go to item number 3. Commissioners Court is requested to approve a lease agreement between the hospital district and UNT Health Science Center as it relates to medical space at the JPS Health Center for Women.
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of court, on item number 4, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve the renewal of an MOU as it relates to the 2009 burn grant. This is an agreement between Tarrant County and the City of Fort Worth.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the Court, on item number 5, this is a request for an exception to the travel policy. It's for in-region travel. This is for 4 individuals from County Criminal Court number 7 and number 9 as it relates to a meeting that's occurring in Dallas, November 2nd through the 5th. I do want to point out that one thing that makes this somewhat different than some of the other requests that we've had is that in one of the evenings there is a informational observance nighttime ride-out with the police department. That is a 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. And because of that, there's a request that we waive the policy, our policy as it relates to in-region travel.
I'm going to move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously, and I will tell you that it was the ride-along on that.
That's the only reason.
Right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Snyder?
The Management Board is recommending the approval of claim to Cecilia Sanchez and the amount listed on your agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Rocker, you okay. Ms. Glenn, Ms. Worthy. Good morning.
Our first item is that we request that you receive and file the personnel agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file the personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item is request for approval of a waiver of terminal benefits for the Juvenile Services Department. The Training and Quality Assurance Coordinator is planning to retire at the end of September, and they would like to make effective a waiver on November the 2nd, so they're going to let some time expire. This individual has approximately 388 hours of vacation, and based on the cost of the new incumbent that will be taking the position, there's actually a cost savings of approximately $6,000 on this request.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Ms. Brewer? Good morning.
Good morning.
Public Health has 5 items for your approval this morning. The first one is approval of the FY 2010 Public Health Department fee schedule.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The second one is approval of interim financing for fiscal year 2010 grants for our tuberculosis refugee health screening, Advanced Practice Center, and Women, Infant, and Children's Program, or our WIC program.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our third item is approval of a contract for services with Scott Harris Associates to conduct an internal and external health equity analysis or assessment for Tarrant County Public Health.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our next 2 items are public health preparedness funding that the federal government has sent to the state, and then the state is sending to us, specifically to address the H1N1 issue. The funding is coming to us in 3 parts. The next 2 items are Part 1 and Part 2. They are very prescriptive funding, and some of the things that we had originally asked for we were not able to get when it went in to the state. It was disallowed because of the intent of the funding effort around the vaccination program. So the first item we have is the Texas Department of State Health Services Community Preparedness Section Public Health Emergency Response Focus Area 1 Grant Contract, or affectionately known as FER 1 to us.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And the second item is the Texas Department of State Health Services Community Preparedness Section Public Health Emergency Response Focus Area 2 grant contract.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much, and we'll bring you Phase 3 as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Lou. You have started giving flu shots, is that
Seasonal
correct?
flu.
Seasonal flu shots.
Yes.
That's right. And those are available
We're-
Go ahead.
In September, in order to get them out, while the clinics were still very, very busy with back-to-school vaccine, we went ahead and put them out in special events. But starting in October, since we won't be doing as many back-to-school immunizations, then we'll bring them into the clinics. So
And you're anticipating the H1N1 vaccine?
sometime, we're hearing early to mid-October.
So if people have not got the flu, the seasonal flu shot, are they going to be able to get both of them at the same time? Or should they attempt to get one and then separate the second?
Well, we're really encouraging people to get, because they may not be in the same group. The target groups are not
Right.
exactly the same. So we're really encouraging people that are in the target populations for seasonal flu to go ahead and get theirs.
Okay.
I got mine yesterday.
Great, good, thank you.
They're still chasing me. I got to get caught.
And in our events, we have one today, Tuesday, and we're doing the events Tuesdays and Thursdays, so we have 3 more events, and then we'll be done for September. We'll put them into the...
And October 1, they'll be available in the public health clinics.
Yes, yes,
In the sub-courthouses.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Mr. Beecham.
Your Honor, the members of the court, we have 5 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is bid award recommendation for bid number 2009-141, signing a contract for exterminating pest control services. Our recommendation will be to award a per unit price basis, awarding to the primary, secondary vendors under exterminating and termite control as shown in your court communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item is also a bid award recommendation for bid number 2009-137. This is only a contract for inmate uniforms for the Sheriff's Department. Our recommendation will be to award to the second low bidder, Robinson Textiles, on a per unit price basis. The low bid that we've received from a company called Uniform Manufacturing should be rejected for not meeting the specifications on our lettering requirements.
What?
Lettering requirements. They used not a permanent ink, which the Sheriff's Department requires for obvious reasons, and a problem with the mock fly opening.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 3 is also a bid award recommendation for bid number 2009-140, signing a contract for copier and fax supplies. Recommendation will be to award on a per unit price basis, awarding to the 7 primary and secondary vendors as shown in your court communique.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 4 is again a bid award recommendation for our bid number 2009-136. This is our annual contract for preventive maintenance on our ice machines and dispensers. Recommendation will be to award a per unit price per building per visit basis to the primary vendor, All City Service, our secondary vendor, Refrigeration Specialist Incorporated.
These are in the jail?
All over the county.
All of them.
Ice machines, dispensers.
You have one at your sub-courthouse.
Move approval.
Second.
Now, I will now ask you for the question that you sure seem like you're ready to ask.
I don't know anything about. She says I've got one in my sub-courthouse. If I do, I couldn't tell you where it is.
It would be in the kitchen.
In the kitchen?
It's an ice machine.
No.
It makes a lot of noise.
You have a kitchen?
No. We've got
Yes.
an employee break room
Okay, call it the
with a
employee.
refrigerator.
And an ice maker.
In the refrigerator,
You don't have an ice maker, do you?
and we bought the refrigerator out of our
Hey, it just showed up.
out of our own
It
budget.
just showed up. Yes, I didn't ask for it either.
We were told you getting an ice maker.
Because of
They
the-
put it in that conference room.
It's in the employee health, so we drink.
Giving the things away
It's
now?
not in my office.
No,
We're not.
Call the question.
they do have.
You got one too, huh?
Absolutely.
We have a motion, a second, and a lot of discussion. Any other? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank goodness our last item is another bid award recommendation for RFP number 2009-129. This is a professional services to prepare a central services cost allocation plan for the county administrator's office. Recommendation award to a company called MGT of America, in the amount of $17,260.
Now, what are we getting for this?
It's a service that provides cost allocations that we submit to the federal government for reimbursement of various funds.
It's for our grants.
Well, I didn't read that in this RFP and the information you provided. Just, you wanted $17,260 for professional services to prepare a central services cost allocation plan. Oh, maybe that was for your salary or something.
No, sir, and I do not have an ice machine in my office either, so.
Okay.
You got one down in your break room, though. Move.
We're too busy to go down there.
Second.
Give me a break.
We have a motion and a second, and no further debate on the previous issue. Any other discussion on this one? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Ms. Green, looks like.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve the application and letter of agreement for construction services with AT&T to relocate 1,660 feet of terminals currently located within a private easement along Ann Lane North, and authorize payment to AT&T upon completion of the work to be performed.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Skinner.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Members of the court, we are requesting your approval of an interlocal agreement with the city of Fort Worth related to improvements to an exit ramp extending from US 287 to Avondale Haslett.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Any appointments? Okay, then you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move for approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have two additional briefing items to present to the court this morning. Item B is an update on facilities management bond program. Mr. Phillips is here to address the court at this time.
We have handouts.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
This is awfully shiny.
Whoa. Wow.
All right, we're all sufficiently impressed.
This morning, I'd like to talk about the four capital improvement projects that were included in the 2006 bond program. First, the Civil Courts Building. In front of you, you have a black box. In that black box contains the space program, building space program, and conceptual drawings in this very, very early stage of design of the civil courts building. Next week, you will be presented the space needs assessment, the conceptual drawings, and total capital budget in a presentation presented by myself and the architects regarding the civil courts building. Basically, the building is turning out to be 190,000 square feet, which is about 70,000 square feet smaller than the Family Law Center. It's going to be a 6-level building, at least at the conceptual stage. One of those levels is below grade. It'll sit on Block 11, which is a couple of blocks away. It'll contain 12 civil district courtrooms, 1 mega courtroom for multi-litigant trials, a larger courtroom space. It'll also provide space for the jury services, district clerk, and other support areas. Next week, it'll also provide you with some options to relocate the Second Court of Appeals from the Tim Curry Criminal Justice Center to the new Civil Courts building. And also, I'd like next week to discuss with you some parking issues I believe we're going to have regarding this particular new project. I think one reason the Family Law Center was so successful is we did a lot of small things right, and one of the things we did right, we provided the parking on the front end of the project, and we didn't get any complaints that I'm aware of regarding adjacency and parking and access to the family law. I am concerned a little bit about this new civil courts building because we're not providing that same level number of parking spaces, because the parking the Calhoun garage we have now is can be full on many, many days of the week. And so we're going to have to look at some options to provide parking for this new building.
Could we come back to parking when you're done with your presentation?
Yes. Any questions on civil courts before I move to the jail?
With regards to the alternatives, like the moving the Second Court of Appeals down, do you know yet whether you're going to propose that be bid as an alternate, or do you have any idea from a dollar standpoint where you think you're going to fall in this process?
Yes, I think, Judge, our base project, what I just described with the 12 courtrooms and the mega courtroom, I think that's a $67 million project. And I think I recommend possibly funding that with our $62.3 million that was approved in 2006. And also, we have unsold $7.5 million in bonds from the 1998 courts facility project. So we would have possibly $3 million left over. Now, that won't fund any Court of Appeals. I think the Court of Appeals is about $11.5 million extra. It's a complete floor. And also, the reason we won't talk too much about next week, unless you'd like me to, is you've asked us to look at moving the county court at laws from the old courthouse over to this new building. Also, the probate courts. Well, that's a couple of more floors, and again, it's about $11 million a floor.
What's the reason for the move? I guess I'm at loss on
which
on the civil courts. I mean the Court of Appeals court. I thought we had built them a
yes, sir.
Nice facility.
When we came with the pre-design contract with HOK and HKS, we listed the various departments that we might look at programming and figure out what their needs assessment to be included in this building. They were just one of many that we looked at. And I have got some feedback from the advisory committee and regarding the civil courts advisory committee, and they recommend we possibly look at moving the Court of Appeals to this building. And I think the reason being is the long-term strategy of the use of the Tim Curry building. We haven't done a full-blown needs assessment for the criminal court justice system in our downtown campus yet, and that's probably a $500,000 effort just to do that. But there's a possibility we may have some advantage of taking that Court of Appeals and moving it to a new building and repurposing their existing space and making that a full-blown criminal courts building. That is.
I think I have at least heard from some, not Joe and really not even Tim, but the DA's, potential growth might be into that area or might be curtailed as a result of that. And just as was said, that was one of the things that some of this committee, I think, at least addressed as a possibility. And I think what we've said all along is that it's got to stay within budget. And that was the key concern from that standpoint.
Well, if I just heard the report right,
It-
it's already over budget without this addition.
Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, we've still got money left from the prior bond election.
But not for what the citizens approved. We got,
No, we do.
Yeah.
They approved 7 million out of that past one, 7 or 8 million that we still have left from that prior bond election.
but how much are we short on the last bond election?
About $4 million.
We're 4 million over, aren't we?
Right.
We're not short, we're 4 million over. But we're 7 or 8 million, if you would have put another 4 on there, then that would make us 7 million short. So, I mean, right now, under the estimates that you've got, plus the money we had left over from the bond election previously, we're $3 to $4 million, we've got $3 to $4 million more than what they're estimating the cost of the new building.
That's correct. When I put the numbers together for you in late 2005 and early 2006, I took the Family Law Center actual costs and added 50%.
50?
50%.
Wow.
And I thought
5-0, not
5-0. I thought that was plenty reasonable enough at that time to build this project 3 or 4 years later, and it seems it probably won't be. We just need just a little bit more to do that. It's close. They worked real hard to get the square footage down, because we originally planned a couple 100,000 square feet, and now they've got it down to about 190. Moving on to the jail, Gideon Toll will deliver the 100% construction documents this week. Then the final approval process begins. Let me give you a list of the folks who will be reviewing and approving these documents. The Sheriff's Department, Texas Commission on Jail Standards, Tarrant County Health Department for the kitchen, JPS Hospital for the jail medical area, Broadus and KI team, who's our contract project managers, Tarrant County IT, Gilbane Building Company, Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation for the accessibility standards, Tarrant County Facilities Management staff, and many, many City of Fort Worth building code and fire code folks, like the Fire Department, Water Department, Transportation, Public Works, Planning and Zoning, and Downtown Design Review Board. So there's just a whole list of folks who have been working with us through the process. However, we need to sign a final sign-off from all these folks before we get a building permit. I would think we would actually advertise for bids in December. I think we'll start construction in late February, early March. I think that's, if everything goes well. We still got some regulatory issues with the land use. We still have a couple of issues with Downtown Design Review Board regarding the Sky Bridge. We've made 2 presentations of them so far, Gideon Toll has, and they've asked for additional information regarding the Sky Bridge and some sidewalk access blocks. So it's been a process. Moving on to the juvenile expansion project on Kimbo Road in Northeast Fort Worth. One of the handouts I provided you has one of my cover letters on it. Yes?
Is it in the black box, or?
No, that's separate from the black box.
Second page, isn't it?
Yes, it's, this little information packet is really something very, very preliminary regarding the concept, some ideas regarding what we might do out at Kimbo Road. HOK did this for us a year or 2 ago. This probably adds 100,000 square feet to 121,000 square feet building space out there, which you had, the reason you have not presented this yet, because this was not fit in our $36 million budget. And we're working with Judge Gene Boyd and Randy Turner to figure out what the exact priorities are so we can make recommendations to you to get it within the $36 million budget. And we expect to do something, get it back to you probably after the first of the year. But here's some site plan and some very preliminary building drawings. Moving on to the medical examiners. Also, there's a handout, the large 11 by 17 handout, site plan handout. Those pages, I saw those yesterday, came in the office, and this is what Thomas S. Byrne, the construction manager, and Broadus Associates have been working through for a site logistics plan. I just want to give you a feel for how somewhat complicated the matter is regarding this project when we started, regarding routing of folks around the property. We're going to rework the morgue area. We have to rework the body coolers and move those outside and have temporary coolers and trucks, and it's somewhat going to be very interesting. The construction drawings for that particular project, the medical examiners, was received last week. They're going to the City of Fort Worth plan review this week. They're going through our office and Broadus and others for final review and sign-off. Then we're going to give them to Dr. Parawani and his staff for final sign-off on the documents, and we hope to bid those in November, December. That's kind of where we're at.
We had talked, or I had mentioned to GK about getting into a regular routine of updating us on where we are on each one of these buildings, and just as you've got them laid out there, what I would like to suggest to the court, if it meets with your approval, is that beginning next month, that on the second Tuesday, you give us an update on the civil courts building, the third Tuesday you give us one on the jail project, and the fourth you give us one on the juvenile and medical examiner's space. And we do that every month from now to the time we walk into the buildings.
We can do that. In fact, we're going to start with the civil courts building next week, actually. But yes, we had anticipated a monthly briefing on each of those projects.
And if you want to change the order around, I don't have a preference. I just feel, I mean, there's been suggestions that we would like to be more up to speed on what's going on from that standpoint, and I think this way we won't end up getting presented with something and feel like we're delaying it if we don't make a quick decision. And so it may be just a matter of coming up and some weeks saying everything's going fine, and we're not looking. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute presentation, but if it needs to be, I'd rather it be that than us. And this way, if we do it on a regular basis, I think back over the Family Law Center and think back on the regular visits that we had from Gilbane, and I think that was useful, and that kept us up to speed on problems that they were anticipating coming up. So I'd like to have the contractors here, at least the architect or the contractor here to respond or to mention any things that they've got in mind on those things.
Okay.
We had talked about doing this beginning in October, but because there was a need to bring the civil courts building to you all a little bit earlier, that's why we're bringing it to you next week. But it's going to be a monthly update on these projects.
Great. Thank you.
Now, the issue of parking that I wanted to revisit. We have now opened the vital statistics, vital records department at the Plaza building. And from all of the calls that I've gotten, the service is great. People like it being there. The one complaint, and this is basically from funeral directors who have to go there to get death certificates, is that there's no place to park. We need to do something about that and do it rather quickly.
Commissioner Brooks, we've begun talking with the downtown TIF and P&L on the Tandy Center parking, and there is a requirement that they provide some free parking during the daytime, and we're going to have conversations with them about providing some free parking for individuals who use the vital statistics or services area. So what we're trying to do is keep them away from our lots, but this is right across the street.
Sure.
So the county's participating in that TIF, and this is basically an ROI for us, where we're getting something back for our investment in the TIF. You'll probably hear about that on Wednesday or Thursday also.
I think that is a good plan. Walking across the street is no big deal, unless it's pouring down raining. Then they need an umbrella. But we at least need a plan on how to address this.
It seemed the most logical thing to do because it's up to 2-hour parking in there, and so we're working out those details, but that's how we intended to solve that problem.
All right, thank you. Keep us keep us advised as we go along.
Any other questions for David? Any other comments? Thank you.
Your Honor, and members of the court, if we could move to item C. This is an update on the 2006 Transportation Bond Program.
Greetings again. I will provide you with a brief update on the 2006 transportation piece of the bond program. Before I do, I would just point out that we are very pleased with the progress that we've seen over the past year. In our last discussion this time last year, I think we were able to provide you with just a small handful of projects that were completed and not very many projects that were actually under construction. But I think you'll see a completely different scenario in today's presentation. We'll get to that in just a minute. Just keep in mind that the information that we'll share with you today is a snapshot of the program as it exists right now. Obviously, there are going to be rapid changes to the program from time to time. But as it stands right now, we have 26 interlocal agreements executed for projects that are valued over $174 million. You can see the county's participation. Unfortunately, inflation rates have driven up total project costs significantly over the past 3 years. But I do show that to you just to let you see the return on investment that we're getting from our program. We have 3 local project advance funding agreements with TxDOT executed. Those projects include East Rosedale, the FM 156 realignment project, and the bridge replacement project on Bowman Springs Road in Kennedy. We have 5 projects that are under agreement right now that will be funded through discretionary dollars. And I've mentioned to you before about the projects that are completed. We have 6 projects that are completed, and we'll take a look at those in just a moment. Again, this is a snapshot of our program as it exists right now, just to show you how the funding is allocated. Obviously, the $40 million for discretionary, the $20 million that's been allocated for the transit-related improvements. 9.7% of our program is allocated right now towards on-system projects, and of course the majority of our program is funding the local arterial projects within our communities. You're probably wondering why that is not a 100% at the bottom. That's 97.6%. As our program has moved along, we've had some projects that have been withdrawn simply primarily due to the fact that either the cities have funded them, or in more cases, more often than not, it's TxDOT that stepped up and funded those projects entirely, and the county funding was no longer needed. And so we have approximately 2.5% that's not programmed at this time. With respect to the funding that we do have programmed, you will see that obviously this shifts quite a bit. This is based on the project schedules that we receive from the cities in our online tracking program. As it looks right now, it looks like fiscal year 2011 is our big year. We do have a lot of projects that will be coming online over the course of the next 2 fiscal years. And in just a moment, I'll show you some slides that will show you what those projects are. I mentioned to you that we have 6 projects that are completed. You've already seen some of these. These are just from last year. Bogart Drive, Gateway, those were completed early in our program. Starnes Road is officially completed, along with the Wichita Street extension in Everman. And then also we had some intersection improvements along Business 287, and that project has been completed as well. I mentioned that we had 26 projects that are currently under agreement. I won't go through these individually, but I do want to point out something that's different from last year. That is that you'll notice that the green dots next to the project indicate those projects that are under construction. That first project you see is basically the Stadium Drive project is basically completed. We just haven't finalized the paperwork on that. Again, I won't go through all these individually, but I just want you to see that there are quite a few of these projects, a lot of intersection improvements as well as widenings that are under agreement. I would point out here on Denver Trail Extension, this project is under construction right now in Precinct 4, and it's moving along nicely. I think they have the
piers in place and working on the bridge structure right now. The FM 156 realignment project, that's also under construction, as is the Great Southwest at Interstate 20 interchange and the Grand Prairie. I would point out here, Roof Snow, that may be going to construction next year, along with the Longhorn Road project in Precinct 4. I think those two are coming online. With regard to those projects that are under agreement using Commissioner discretionary funding, that includes the East Rosedale project in Precinct 1. That project is under construction right now. Pennsylvania Avenue, that project, really, I believe that is actually completed. We haven't actually finalized the paperwork on that as well, so we're listing it here, but I think that is open to traffic now. As well as the Bowman Springs Road, we've talked about the bridge replacement, FM 1938, and the Euless Grapevine Stone Myers project. Those are under agreement. We want to keep you apprised of where our projects are falling with regard to schedules each year. What we've done is we went back to about this time last year to present, and we wanted to show you what's happening with the project schedules. To my surprise, we're actually seeing 9 projects that are moving forward. Typically, we see a lot of these projects delaying, but in this case, we're seeing 9 that are actually advancing forward in the schedule. We do, of course, have 36 projects that are delayed, but I would point out, if you look at that last line, out of that 36, there are 9 projects that are delayed beyond 1 year. So the majority of those projects that are delayed are within a 1-year time frame. Some of those are maybe 1 or 2 months, others maybe 6 or 7 months, but they're basically within a 1-year time frame. We've actually seen a slowdown, if you will, from the number of projects that are delaying. There seems to be a little bit of stabilization occurring there, but we do see some shift. Before I go any further, I'd like to ask if you have any questions for me for what we've covered so far. Yes.
You made a comment earlier about the increased cost.
Yes.
And I was under the impression that we were seeing costs, and I know those costs are based on 2006, but on the jobs that are bidding, are we seeing them lower than maybe what a year ago they projected them to be?
We actually,
3 years ago.
You're exactly right, Commissioner. We are seeing them, those costs coming in lower recently than what we've seen in the past. And I think what that inflation, what you're seeing when I refer to the inflation, was those first 2 years of our program where we saw a pretty significant rise. But you're correct. We're seeing a lower amount today.
Just a comment, and this is going to be nothing new to any of you sitting here, but if you look at the list of projects that are underway, that are completed, that are in the pipeline, Precinct 1 gets short shrift, and were it not for the fact that I'm funding a major project out of my discretionary funds, we'd only have just a small project of $1 million or so in Precinct 1. That's not equitable. I'm not happy about it. There ain't no way for you to make me happy about it except to refund that project that I'm doing out of discretionary dollars.
No, but a lot of that is also the fact the city of Fort Worth isn't spending the money. Moving right along.
No, not moving right along.
Well, we're in partnership with the cities. I understand that you have put money forward for that discretionary project, which they curtailed, but they haven't spent the money.
It's under construction right now.
That's fine, but a lot of the reason why we saw Arlington so much is because Arlington has put the cash up and has spent the money. And, Fort Worth right now is not spending the money, and we understand the budget crisis they're going through, but our deal was to bring dollars in and to spend it with the cities, not to spend it and then the cities put their money in. And so if the cities are, I don't know if we look at the delayed projects, my guess is a lot of the delayed projects may or may not be ones that are in different precincts.
Suggestion, though. I would like to revisit the Rosedale project. And have that come back on our agenda to relook at how it's being funded. So, on Rosedale.
I mean, I guess we can look at bringing that up for a vote to reconsider it, to look at it.
I'd like for us to do that.
So we might want to look at putting that on the agenda.
Just to let you know where we are on the status of that project, we've made one payment, I believe. I don't think we've made the second payment, but we have begun expending funds on that project. I'd like to go ahead and move forward in our presentation. This is the part that I always like to bring to your attention each year, and that is the photographs. In this particular case, we'll start with the Pleasant Ridge project. You'll see on the left that the 2-lane rural section road is now being widened to a 4-lane divided. This will be a nice facility when it's completed. In Precinct 4, this is a facility that is an extension of Denver Trail. We mentioned that earlier, that will go over from School Street to the connection of existing Denver Trail. This may be a little difficult to see. You may want to look at this larger screen, but it's basically where this fence line is on this first photograph is where the extension will continue. And then you'll see in the second photograph where that fence is, the project continues on over. And this will provide connectivity from the residential area of Basil to the SH 199, which, if you recall, that's where the hospital is located at that intersection. So I'm sure will have a positive impact on emergency response. In Precinct 1, we mentioned another project that has been completed. This is the Wichita Street extension. I don't have a before picture because obviously there wasn't anything there, but this project is on new right-of-way and provides for important traffic circulation connectivity from Wichita Street to Enon.
And again, the city of Everman had no money to put into this project, so their share of the funding came out of my discretionary fund.
We mentioned earlier that there are projects that will be coming online next fiscal year. This is just a list of some of those projects. This is based on the project schedules that I've received from the cities in our online tracking program. So you'll see that I actually have 2 slides here. So there are several projects that are coming online with regard to construction. I would point out one thing just so that there's no confusion. You mentioned earlier that there are some delay. We talked about some of the delays earlier. East 1st Street from Beach to Oakland is a project that, even though it's shown here, that may be going to construction next year. What we're finding is that TxDOT is reprioritizing their bridge fund program such that they're focusing on bridges that are structurally deficient. And as a result of that, there's not quite as much money remaining for widening projects that involve the replacement of bridge structures. With that in mind, it's possible that this project will slip out. As well, if you'll look at you may want to take a look at the schedule for Precinct Line project is another one that is delayed considerably for that reason. You'll see my asterisk there with regard to Pipeline Road. That is a project that we don't have an agreement yet with the city. We look to get that process next month, actually, but the city has moved forward with a section of that project in construction. And then this is the second slide, just to let you know that, just point out that North Tarrant Parkway, Longhorn, those projects will be coming online next year. And it looks like FM 1187, I think that is scheduled for a September letting date of 2010. So we've got quite a few.
That's an on-system project, right?
Yes, it is. And so we do have quite a few projects that are moving forward and advancing. We're excited about the fact that we see a lot of these projects in construction and a lot of them coming online, given the economic difficulties that we've had. Obviously, it's put a strain on many of our communities, but they are moving forward with these projects.
Any questions? Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
Your Honor, that's all we have at this time.
The Commissioners' Court will now recess to open session and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempted under Sections 551.071 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code.
Yes.
Call the court back to order. Having returned from closed session, we will now address the following. Mr. Wright.
Thank you, Your Honor. Regarding the item under the District Attorney's Office, requesting authorization for the District Attorney's Office to intervene in this lawsuit and protect the county's subrogation interest.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Please vote. Vote is unanimous.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That's all we have today, sir.
This court is dismissed.
Good job.
Thank you.